Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly command respect without saying a word? They're not louder. They're not necessarily more talented. But somehow people listen when they speak. They follow when they move. They're seen as leaders, not because of a title, but because of how they carry themselves, how they think, and how they treat others. Here's the truth. Leadership isn't given, it's earned. And it has nothing to do with being in charge. It has everything to do with how you show up in life consistently. In this video, I'm going to share a few powerful things that, if you start doing them today, people will naturally begin to treat you like a leader. Not because you told them to, but because you became one. Let's get into it. Assume responsibility always. One of the most defining traits of any true leader is the willingness to take full responsibility not just for success, but also for setbacks, mistakes, and unexpected outcomes. This might seem like a heavy burden to carry, but it's actually one of the most powerful decisions you can make in life. Why? Because the moment you take full responsibility for your life, your work, and your relationships, you immediately step out of the crowd and into a position of quiet authority. Most people spend their time pointing fingers, shifting blame, or waiting for someone else to solve the problem. But leaders say, "I'll handle it," even when they didn't cause the problem, even when it's not fair, because they know something most people don't: responsibility equals control. When you accept responsibility, you take control of your response, your attitude, and your choices. That's where real power begins, not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. It doesn't matter where you came from, what happened to you, or what limitations you face. What matters is what you do next. And the person who owns their choices owns their future. You think about any leader you respect. They don't make excuses. They don't whine or play the victim. They show up. They make decisions. They fix things. That's the energy people trust. That's the energy people follow. And here's something remarkable. When you make this mindset shift, when you stop blaming and start owning, people begin to look at you differently. Colleagues start asking for your input. Friends trust you with advice. Even in a room full of equals, you'll be seen as the one others can count on. That's leadership, and it starts from the inside out. So how do you build this habit? Start small. If something goes wrong, resist the urge to deflect. Instead, ask yourself, what part of this can I own? Even if it's just 1%, then take action. Fix it, improve it, or learn from it. That simple practice, done consistently, rewires how you think and eventually how others see you. Responsibility isn't just a leadership trait, it's a leadership magnet. People want to follow those who own their actions, who step up, and who never run from accountability. And when you become that person, leadership stops being a title and starts being your identity. Think creatively and act decisively. If you want people to treat you like a leader, you have to think like one. And thinking like a leader means training your mind to see what others don't see, and then having the courage to act on it. The world is full of people who wait. They wait for permission, for clarity, for the right moment. Leaders don't wait, they create. When faced with a challenge, most people see obstacles. Leaders, they see possibilities. They don't just follow the map, they redraw it when necessary. That's the power of creative thinking paired with decisive action. Let's break that down. Creative thinking doesn't mean you have to be an artist, a designer, or a poet. It means you look at problems with a fresh set of eyes. You ask better questions. You challenge the default. You explore new angles instead of recycling old excuses. When someone says, "This can't be done," the leader asks, "What if it could? What would it take?" That single shift in mindset, questioning instead of complying, positions you as someone who brings value, not just effort. But creativity alone isn't enough. Ideas are only as good as the action that follows them. That's why decisiveness matters just as much, maybe even more. A leader doesn't just come up with a better way, they take steps toward it. They're willing to risk being wrong in order to move forward. That doesn't mean being reckless. It means being clear, intentional, action-oriented. It means making decisions even when the outcome isn't guaranteed because they understand that motion creates clarity. Waiting creates doubt. You think about this. When a group of people is uncertain, they naturally gravitate toward the one who's willing to take the lead. Not the one with all the answers, but the one who's willing to move, to try, to take initiative. That kind of energy is contagious. It gives people confidence. It gives direction. And it builds your reputation as someone who isn't just in the room, but someone who moves the room forward. You don't need a corner office or a fancy title to start doing this. You can lead from wherever you are. Whether you're working a job, building a brand, managing a team, or even just navigating your own life, every problem is an opportunity to practice leadership. Next time something's unclear, take the first step. Speak up. Offer a solution. Suggest a better way. Then commit to action, not perfection action. A real leader understands that even the best plan might need adjusting along the way. That's okay. What matters is that you start. Most people never do. They overthink. They hesitate. But leaders build the muscle of decision-making. They make a call, learn, and refine as they go. And here's the best part. Once people see you doing this consistently, thinking beyond the obvious and backing it with movement, they'll start seeing you differently. You'll stop being one of the team and start becoming the person others look to when things are uncertain. Why? Because they trust your mindset. They trust your ability to create clarity and momentum. That's leadership. So remember this: creative thinking opens the door. Decisive action walks through it. And when you combine both, people can't help but follow your lead. Develop an unshakable self-image. If you want others to treat you like a leader, you must first believe that you are one. It sounds simple, even obvious, but it's one of the most overlooked truths in leadership. People don't follow uncertainty. They follow confidence. And not the loud, boastful kind, the quiet, steady kind that comes from a deep belief in who you are and what you stand for. That's called self-image, and it sets the tone for how the world responds to you. Every action you take, every word you speak, every goal you pursue, all of it flows from the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who is capable, resilient, and worthy of leading, you'll act in alignment with that. But if your inner voice is filled with doubt, hesitation, and second-guessing, people will pick up on that too, no matter how much you try to hide it. The truth is, we teach others how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. So if you walk into a room with your head down, avoiding eye contacts, speaking like you're not sure you belong, people won't see you as a leader. Not because you aren't capable, but because you haven't owned that space within yourself yet. So how do you develop an unshakable self-image? It starts with intentional self-respect. Speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for leading. Watch yourself talk. Are you encouraging or tearing yourself down? Would you follow someone who constantly doubts themselves? Probably not. That's why building inner leadership is step one. You have to back yourself, especially when no one else does yet. Next, focus on how you show up physically and mentally. Leaders carry themselves with purpose. Their posture says, "I'm here for a reason." Their tone says, "You can trust me." That doesn't mean being fake or overly polished. It means being grounded, present, fully engaged. Even your body language can communicate confidence before you say a single word. Another important piece: keep your word to yourself. Every time you set a goal and follow through, even if it's small, you build credibility with yourself. And that internal credibility turns into external confidence. Others will begin to notice. They'll see you as reliable, strong, someone who does what they say they'll do. It's also important to surround yourself with environments that reinforce your growth. Spend time around people who challenge you, not just comfort you. Read things that elevate your thinking. Protect your mind from negativity, because what you feed, it will shape your identity. Most importantly, remember this: confidence isn't about never doubting, it's about choosing to believe in yourself anyway. Every leader you admire has had moments of fear, uncertainty, and failure. What sets them apart is that they didn't let those moments define them. They stayed rooted in who they were becoming. They led themselves first, and that's why others followed. When you develop that kind of self-image, people feel it. You walk into the room differently. You speak with more clarity. You act with more intention. And without even trying to convince anyone, you begin to earn their trust, respect, and attention. Leadership starts with identity. See yourself as a leader not someday, but today, because once you believe it, others will too. Practice the habit of service. One of the most powerful truths about leadership is this: it's not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. In other words, real leadership begins with service. This idea might surprise you, especially in a world that often links leadership to status, power, or recognition. But look closely at the people who are truly respected, not just obeyed or admired from afar, and you'll find something in common. They're always looking for ways to help others grow, succeed, and feel seen. Why? Because service creates connection, and connection builds influence. People don't remember every word you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. When you consistently show up with the intention to serve, not to impress, not to dominate, but to genuinely make things better, you start to build real leadership capital. You become someone people trust, someone they want to follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. But let's be clear, service doesn't mean becoming a doormat or doing everything for everyone. It means being others-focused in a strategic, intentional way. It's about asking, how can I add value here? Whether that's by offering encouragement, sharing knowledge, stepping up when things get tough, or simply listening when someone needs to be heard. Even small acts of service done consistently create a powerful ripple. Helping a colleague without being asked, giving credit instead of taking it, offering solutions instead of pointing out problems. These are the quiet moments that shape your reputation. And that's the key. Leaders don't build influence through big speeches or dramatic gestures. They build it through daily service, through consistency, through showing up. The good news: you can start practicing this habit anywhere. You don't need a leadership title or a management role. Whether you're part of a team, running your own business, or navigating your personal relationships, the principle is the same: be the person who lifts others. And here's something amazing: when you focus on serving, you grow too. You become more empathetic, more emotionally intelligent, more trusted. That trust becomes influence. That influence becomes leadership. Some people try to lead by control, but influence is far more powerful than authority. Influence lasts. Authority expires. Now let's talk about one more reason service matters. It keeps your ego in check. As you rise in leadership, it's easy to slip into self-importance. But when your focus is on serving, it's not about you, it's about the mission, the team, the impact. That humility, that's what people respect most. Not the loudest voice, but the one who consistently shows up for others. So if you want to be treated like a leader, start acting like a servant. Look for needs. Step in without being asked. Do the little things with excellence. Give more than you take. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. And over time, people will notice. They'll see that when things go wrong, you're the one helping. When things go right, you're the one lifting others up. That kind of leadership earns loyalty. It earns trust. It earns the title without ever needing to ask for it. Because when you serve first, you lead naturally. Speak with purpose, not just to be heard. Words are powerful. A single sentence can inspire action, rebuild confidence, or shift the direction of a conversation. But here's what separates a true leader from everyone else. They don't just talk to be heard, they speak with purpose. In today's world, people are constantly talking. Social media, meetings, group chats, endless content, there's noise everywhere. But leadership isn't found in the loudest voice. It's found in the most intentional one. Great leaders understand that their words carry weight, so they use them carefully, thoughtfully, and meaningfully. When you speak with purpose, people listen. Not because you're shouting or dominating the room, but because you bring clarity, calm, and direction. You speak to build, not to impress. You speak to connect, not to control. You speak when it matters, and you stay quiet when it's time to listen. Think about this. How often do people speak just to fill silence, or to prove a point, or to defend their ego? True leaders don't fall into that trap. They've trained themselves to ask, is what I'm about to say helpful? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is no, they hold back, because they know silence can be more powerful than empty words. But when they do speak, it lands. It matters. Why? Because they've earned trust through consistent action, and they back their words with integrity. They're not performing. They're serving. So how can you start speaking like a leader? First, know your message. Before you enter a conversation, a meeting, or a moment where others are listening, ask yourself, what do I want people to feel, understand, or do after I speak? That intention will shape your tone, your words, and your impact. Whether you're offering feedback, sharing an idea, or just giving encouragement, lead with clarity. Second, listen more than you speak. This may seem backwards, but it's actually one of the most powerful communication skills a leader can have. When you listen first, you gather context. You show respect. You learn what others value, and that gives your words even more meaning when it's your turn to talk. People are far more likely to listen to someone who's taken the time to listen to them. Third, speak with courage. Leadership sometimes means saying the hard thing, the truth no one else wants to face, or the idea that challenges the norm. But when you say it with respect and from a place of service, it's not offensive, it's powerful. People admire courage, especially when it's used to protect values, solve problems, or defend what's right. And finally, let your words match your actions. If you speak with purpose, but your actions tell a different story, trust disappears. Leadership is built on alignment. What you say should reinforce what you do. When people see that consistency, they'll take your words seriously because they know they're real. So don't rush to speak. Don't talk just to fill space or look impressive. Speak to uplift. Speak to move things forward. Speak to inspire action, not just reactions. Because when you speak with purpose, you become more than just a voice in the crowd. You become someone people want to follow.